if we're assuming the 1.8 closes per canvasser times 4 weeks, basically that's $28,800 per month for one canvasser on your team. Obviously that compound, you're looking at 86.5 grand basically.
Those are some crazy numbers. Hey everyone, what's going on? Josh and Justin here from HyperHired, and today we're going to be asking Justin a bunch of questions on how to recruit profitably. So Justin, take it away. How do we recruit profitably?
Yeah, so for this example, let's start with a roofing company, right? The key with recruiting is that when it's done correctly, it's never unprofitable, right? So as an example, let's check out canvassing in the roofing industry. So typical KPIs for a single canvasser here, average weekly appointment set, 10. And let's assume right off rip, 40% of those people are never confirming. Your closers are never meeting with the actual homeowner. So we take that 10, 60% sit rate. Basically for each canvasser you have out in the field, you're generating 6 new closes on a weekly basis for your closers. And let's say average, maybe low end, depending on how competent you are, your close rate on these sits is 30%. So one canvasser average, if they're hitting KPI 2 appointments a day, which is not hard if they're knocking 150, 200 doors a day, they're generating 1.8 closes per week on average, just one canvasser.
So are these numbers that you typically see? Let's go back to this real quick. These are numbers that you typically see across door-to-door teams.
Yeah, just from data that we have from a lot of the roofing companies that we work with, that's generally average. I mean, if you have a canvasser on your team who's, let's say, generating less than 2 appointments per day, you should probably cut them because they're clearly either you don't have sufficient tracking in place to know what doors they're actually knocking, or they're just not on task, right? Or they just suck on the door, their pitch sucks, right? Obviously breaking that down now, because again, the goal here is to recruit profitably. If you're like most roofing companies, let's say your average gross, unless you're a rarity, it's probably around 13 to 15K. Obviously, some of you guys are up in the 20s, which is, good for you. But average net here, let's say conservatively is 4K on the low end, right? So your average net per roof is 4K. If we're assuming the 1.8 closes per canvasser times 4 weeks, basically that's $28,800 per month for one canvasser on your team. And over a quarter, obviously that compounds, you're looking at 86.5 grand basically.
Those are some crazy numbers. So essentially, if someone has a canvassing team for a roofing company and you're looking at these numbers and you're saying, well, there's no way that could be real. Those aren't the numbers I'm seeing. I mean, obviously they need to recruit better.
Yeah, it's all about the people you have and also like the consistency of your pipeline. So like if you, let's say, if you're just starting out recruiting or building a team, maybe you're of the opinion like, yeah, let's get 2 or 3 guys out. That's our canvassing team. The reality is that's like the completely incorrect way to approach something like this because it's super high volume. Most of the time, if you're building a canvassing team, it's commission only and it's super high turnover. The only way to kind of supplement that is with more volume in the interview process. So the more people you generate as far as candidates, the more people you sit with and actually interview, the more people you end up hiring and starting. And the thing with a role like canvassing too is that the profile is completely different than somebody who performs really well on your sales team. So a guy who can show up to a pre-scheduled appointment and close a deal and apply kind of that soft pressure and get it across the finish line is completely different than somebody who can, consistently go out in 85, 90 degree weather and knock 200 doors, get their foot in that door, get that set up for the inspection and do that repeatedly, right? Totally different profile of person. So just a little bit more on the revenue side as far as revenue produced from recruitment. So let's say per average canvasser, and you can kind of use these same formulas to come up with what this is in your business because it helps to inform, basically how much you can realistically invest in the recruiting side or how much you should. We look at recruitment across all our companies, both internal portfolio companies and the external clients we work with, basically in the same way as, Facebook ads or Google ads or any sort of advertising. So when we're talking about recruitment costs, what we're looking for really as a sales organization is you want to understand what your actual return on investment is. The same as if you're running a Facebook ad, if you spend, $5,000, what's your ROAS? What's your return on that ad spend? We take the similar approach here on the recruiting side. So one average canvasser with this example is making you just shy of 30K per month. how the hell do we get as many of those people as possible? And how do you calculate how much this entire process has actually cost you? So, primary expenses to factor in here. Obviously, you have the ad spend to the platform. You have the labor or the recruiter fees, which, in some cases, this can be hard to calculate, especially if you're doing it yourself. If you're like a small, medium-sized business owner doing all the recruitment yourself, chances are it's kind of difficult to calculate how much your time is worth, right? But these are the main ones. And then, of course, hourly or commission paid out. And realistically here, there are two main numbers you should know. The first is your cost per hire, and the second is your cost per acquisition. Calculating the cost per hire here, just as an example here, let's take some averages across the board. So let's say you have $1,500 in ad spend on average across, a 30-day period, which is typical for clients that we work with. If we're primarily leveraging Indeed or maybe supplementing with ZipRecruiter or whatever it is. And let's say you have an internal recruiter or even an external recruiting agency and you're paying them a $5,000 salary on the low end. And let's say that 5 canvassers from these efforts officially started in the first month, right? So your cost per hire formula to calculate that is the total cost up here, $6,500, right? Divided by the total starts, and that's your cost per hire. Right? So $1,300 cost per hire. So what's the goal with this number? The goal is pretty simple. How do we generate more than $1,300 for each person we onboard? And that is how you have profitable recruiting.
Perfect. Awesome, man. So how much, I guess, if it's $1,300 per canvasser in that example right there, actually, let's go back. So on average, if one canvasser averages them about 28.8K per month, and those are for good canvassers.
It's like an average canvasser.
Average
a good
canvasser
canvasser ideally is scheduling you
50,
more than
60.
Yeah, they're scheduling you more than 2 a day. That's 10 a week, 6 sits a week, or they have maybe a higher than average show rate, right? That's just assuming 40% you never sit with that they schedule, right? And they're only doing the 2 per day.
So 28.8K is where you said the average canvasser should be. So if a company has 5 canvassers and they're all a little bit below average, even averaging $20,000 per hire, or per applicant times 5, that's $40,000 a month that they're losing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Like you got to calculate what your opportunity cost is, how much you're actually losing by not having those top tier reps. And then you got to multiply times 12. Yeah. So in that example, you're talking about $500,000 right there.
Yeah. There's tons of missed opportunity costs all throughout it, because the reality is, if you have the wrong people out right now that are in the field canvassing and they're not hitting KPI, I mean, that's literally the average across, I think when I pulled the numbers at the time, like 60 or 70 roofing companies that we'd work with and pulled from, including like a ton of VC backed ones that I've had one-on-one conversations with, like the executive teams, all that. Like that's the averages. So like the reality is, if you have guys out there, their averages are lower than that, their sit rate is lower than 60%, which is like conservative. Ideally it's like 70% or plus. You want the sit rate as those are quality appointments. Then the reality is they're probably burning doors. The same way as if
burning doors
in the call center in the call center world, it's the same way. They're burning calls,
burning leads, the cost of everything down to the paper they're burning. Yeah.
So they could be knocking on 5 super qualified doors every single day and only scheduling 2 of them because they suck. Right.
So 3 that on average a good canvasser would have gotten 1.5 more. Yeah. And then that just compounds and everything like that. So fixing your recruiting is definitely key and paramount to building that bottom line and that profitability that you want. Justin, if they want better canvassers, how would they get them?
Yeah. So you could, do
it yourself.
You could. It's a pretty arduous process. I know on our end, when we take over recruitment for a lot of these door-to-door companies, to net 5 people, we're typically digging through 300 to 500 candidates, and that's not even including contact rate and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
For us, I would say the lowest hanging fruit at the end of the day, it's like you could try to build this all on your own and get this consistent process and try to understand your numbers and try to build like that foundation, or you could work with a company like Hyperhired, and at the end of 30, 60, 90 days, you have those foundations and you're also at least several steps closer to really reaching the scale that you're looking for, right? So I think that's kind of the best thing to leave everyone with. And if you are interested in kind of having more visibility into your recruitment and having a more consistent pipeline, just check out hyperhire.com. Links in the description. And yeah, we have enrollment coordinators. All they do all day is help solve recruiting problems like this. So, you know, go in, book a no obligation discovery call.
I mean, it's true. It's no obligation. When we sit down with door-to-door companies or any type of sales organization, the only thing that our enrollment team is looking to do is seeing what your process is and seeing if we can actually improve it.
Yeah.
If we can improve it, awesome. Let's talk about doing business together. If we can't, we'll tell you got a good thing going and keep doing what you're doing. But you know, it's all about just improving what you have going on. A lot of times sales organizations or you know, companies, when they have an enrollment call or a sales call or whatever, like everyone's like, oh, you just have to get my money. It's not like that. You know, like I you know, we're definitely like confident that that's not what it's about. It's just about seeing what your process is, doing the math, like Justin just mapped out, like doing the math to make sure that they understand that like this is a big problem. Sometimes the business owners don't see that it's a big problem.
Sometimes there's a level of disconnect there for sure.
Exactly. They blame this, that, and the third, but it's all just a math equation at the end of the day. So if you guys need top quality canvassers for your roofing company or any other type of door-to-door entity, call center space, any type of sales organization, hyperhire.com, and we'll put the link down in the description.
Yep.
Justin, see you later.
See ya.